Oh, it's the top of the hour. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today to today's webinar. My name is Lindsay Walsh and I will be the moderator for this presentation. I am the marketing manager here at Tai Software. So to get started, we're going to go through a few admin things. We're going to leave some time at the end for question and answer. If you would like to submit any questions to the panelists or for the group to answer at the end, you can hover over the Zoom bar at the bottom of your screen, and there is a Q&A chat box that you can put your questions in, and then we will leave time to go over those at the end. Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into how Concept Logistics has used the Parade and Tai Software tool to increase carrier use, to create a loyal carrier network, and also how they experience a growth of almost 60% by using these tools. So let's hop right in and get started. So today our speakers joining us are Greg Finnery, VP of Operations at Concept Logistics, Sean McGillicuddy, who is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Tai Software, and Elise Lee, the VP of Customer Experience at Parade. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, team. So we want to get started by everyone introducing their company a little bit and sharing just a little bit about you. We'll go with you first, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. So Concept Logistics, formerly Concept International Transportation. We're based out of Buffalo, New York. We're non-asset freight brokerage. We've been around for a long time, since '88. We're a second generation family business. I've been with the business for 22 years. I started really young, probably about 20 years old, sitting in a carrier rep chair, booking freight, not knowing what I was doing. And I've watched the landscape change quite a bit. Just a couple years ago, probably about 5 years ago, as the first generation owners left the company, myself and the son of the previous owner, Brendan Daly, have taken leadership over and brought Concept to a new vision and what we want to see out of it, and kind of brought us here with different offerings, full truckload, LTL, warehousing, international, with a concentration on single source to our longtime customers and bringing customers and carriers together.
Great, thanks for giving us that. Elise?
Yeah, Elise Lay here from Parade. First, I want to say thank you to Greg. Our partnership with you is extremely valuable, but on top of that, working with you is a lot of fun. I know my team really enjoys it. I'm sure Sean feels the same, so very lucky and grateful to have you as a customer. So what is Parade? What do we do? We are a new category of freight software. We build specifically and only for freight brokers. So our tool is called Capacity Management, CM. It's the system that we built and created for brokers to find, manage, and book truckload capacity online. How it works, we go out and we pull in capacity from our network to generate a fire hose of relevant quotes for our customers. In the past 6 months, ran the data last night, we've brought in close to 300,000 quotes through the 3 different channels that we have. So we've got a private portal for our brokers that they can invite carriers into to view loads. We also have emails as a source of capacity, so carriers will send in truck lists to a central inbox, and our neural language processing algorithm, I just love saying that word, will read those and parse that out into capacity. So instead of each rep filtering through tens, hundreds of truck list emails, our algorithm does that. And then we also have load board and syndication partnerships. We have 15 partners to date, DAT, Truck Stop, Smart Hub, Trucker Path being a few of them. And based on all that capacity, we create direct and suggested matches for every load based on the load details and then the customer requirements. So when a carrier rep or an operator logs in, they immediately see these matches, which are, in other words, hot leads. And these matches are constantly being generated because we're always pushing loads out to the network. And then carriers are always able to quote or book now on a load. And since we're only focused on helping brokerages automate the everyday, we don't build or have any features in any other part of the brokerage tech stack. So focus all of our energy in our integrations and our partnerships. Have been very fortunate to be working with Tai for almost a couple of years now, and always continuing our time to value and our service to our customers. So turn over to Sean.
Awesome. Thanks to Greg and Elise. I'm Sean and actually we combined this slide where I was going to talk a little bit about kind of what our platform does, but just to say who we are first. I'm, Tai. I've been with the company about 3 years, and Tai, what we do is we focus on providing a TMS solution to freight brokers specifically. And our goal is to maximize efficiency in the workflow. And so the way we do that is, we try to think about the simple nature of the business model of being a freight broker, but also the complexity that happens on a day-to-day. Being a freight broker is a very hard job, but the business itself, the business model it's not a complicated concept. And so our goal is to make it so that you have an easy way to manage your customers, an easy way to work loads through the system, an easy way to outreach to your carriers and keep track of compliance, and weave all these integrations that might be helpful to you into a single solution. And so that's where our partnership with Parade comes in to play, because when you book a shipment within Tai, as soon as you enter a shipment and you put some numbers on it, regardless of whether or not you're using some kind of pricing predictability model, you can put numbers on it right away, email the customer right from Tai, and if they book that shipment, it can fire that shipment right over to Parade to start your outreach. And then if you want it to book immediately through Parade, that can be done. So it sort of automates that outreach to your carrier base. But if you'd like to get a look at those numbers, you can also view your Parade matches by bringing them back into Tai and viewing them on this page that you see here. And our goal, like I said, is we're 100% focused on trying to help brokers that want to grow to do so with the most efficient workflows and a technology that really empowers them to increase their growth. And just kind of touching on what you're seeing on this screen here. This is our Truckload quoting page. And I wouldn't mind sort of looping Greg back in after I explain this. So he, because I think this has been a huge selling point, and I think he would agree, but Concept is a company that was going to grow no matter who they picked as partners, because those guys are hell-bent on growth and efficiency. And we've been fortunate to get to be a part of that and to help push that along faster and help maximize efficiencies. And so you can see on this screen, this is where you can fire an email blast off to a set of carriers if you'd like. You could either enter your load or just work your load from here. You have your pricing intelligence tools at the top. If you need to post to a load board, you can do that from this screen. If you need to send an email blast to a list of carriers, you can do it from here. And you can see who is in compliance with that green and red that you see on the screen, the authority, insurance, safety, and packet. You can see who's in compliance, right? And so this page alone has helped brokers significantly speed up the process instead of having to go to the load board or go over to their inbox to blast out an email and then collect all that information and then put it back in here, instead of it all being reduced down to a handful of clicks and all being able to be done on one screen. And where Parade helps brokers maximize efficiency without even having to leave Tai is those loads get pushed over into Parade. And if you're leveraging Parade for your waterfall effect with your brokers, or finding out who's going to be who's your top broker that you want that to go to, they can automate that part of it, but they can also post to the load board for you. And then our goal is that you never have to leave Tai. And that's true about any integration that we partner with, is we don't want you to have to leave Tai to get your job done. We want your brokers and your carrier reps to be able to sit in the seat and easily train a new person on, hey, here's the set, it's right here. And that's why we want those loads to be able to, those quotes to flow right back into Tai, whether they're auto booked or you have to look at them first. You can look at them first and book them from here, or you can have Parade auto book them, but then you're still just managing the shipment lifecycle from within Tai. So, that's kind of a quick snapshot on how this works together.
Yeah, I think to not undersell this page too, like I think the relevance of this page is, for me, when I first came on Tai, was that, as we grow, or we have all this tribal knowledge and we have carrier reps that have been here as long as I have or longer, and they've got their carriers that they call on a regular basis, either they're entering the quotes on this page or they're booking the loads on this page. And everybody that has any in the same parameters is going to have that same view of those carriers to reuse. Where Parade came in and was stunning to me was how easily we were gaining more quotes, and those were coming into the system again, right? And we were able to be active on those, and it was no more time on a carrier rep's hands for me, because they were automatically generating in and sitting in there. So it's giving my people, and that's really my whole view of this, right? Is that I don't take technology. I'd love to have an unlimited budget and just bring everything in and go for it, right? But half of it doesn't get used. Less than half of the people know what they're doing with it. So being very selective with the two partners we've had with Parade and Tai, we do have close relationships. We do work together very well, right? We do bounce each other off ideas off of each other. And some of them work, some of them don't, but at least we have that relationship to do that. Now, once we got these two functioning together, I think what we're able to do is, again, bring more availability to my carrier rep to make those good decisions and put that in there without having them to pick up the phone call constantly and just bang phones. Now that's still going to happen and you still got to do it, but now you're able to do it with an adage of rates coming to you, right? Which I think we all in the last 2 years have seen less rates coming to us as far as the market goes. It's switching a bit now, but it was frustrating for quite a while.
Yeah, and during that time, I know, Greg, we talked a lot about how important it is to treat the carrier really just as good as your customer and those relationships. And I think Tai, our goal with Tai is to make it so that you're freed up to focus on those relationships, right? We're trying to reduce the data entry and any processes that take a lot of time away from your reps, and make sure that they're freed up to focus on relationships. And then Parade, in my opinion, takes it a step further because they're actually zeroing in on exactly who should get that load, your top carriers, and who those should be. So they're almost leveraging automation and data to help you do the job of making sure that your favorite carriers get their favorite loads
for what they want, right?
Yeah.
For the price that you guys are talking about. So I think that's a big piece too, Sean. I'm glad you kind of went into that, because it is, it's not just to automate, it's to elevate, right? And what is this business? What is business period? It's relationship based, and it's not going to change. And I think when we really concentrate on that, now we're not just relying on our carrier reps or whoever's booking the loads at your company just to sit there and fire phones all day and not have a great conversation, not know where they're going to be next week, not know what other capacity or what other markets they get to. When you have a great carrier, you want to expand your reach within what they're doing. And I think that's what we're reframing our carrier reps to do is, hey, let's have a great conversation with these carriers. Let's get them lined up in Parade. Let's make smart rules so they have those, those loads going to them for what they want and when they can do them and all that kind of stuff. And then we're calling in and having 10, 15-minute conversations about, what worked, what didn't, what can we be doing better, what loads do you like, what loads do you not like, and the robust information that we can get both out of Tai and Parade. Parade does a great job of a carrier profile. They bring in lanes, they bring in specific commodities. You could filter all the way down to day of the week, I believe. But I mean, it's really the two of them talking like that enables my team to go out and really start to have significant phone calls that mean something, that push relationships forward. I think a big piece of it too is when we're talking about the relationship, we have one or two carriers that are like, we would just love to do everything through you guys, right? That would be a great thing for us. Well, as I expand here and I'm growing, I've got 8 carrier reps. I'm going to have 12 carrier reps. I'm going to have 15 carrier reps, right? Does that carrier that wants to do business with me and only me want 25 phone calls from 10 different people every day, right? I know in my company, if somebody calls me more than twice, I'm like, what's going on here, right? So I think what we got to, what ends up happening is that we assign a rep to it, and now the conversation's flowing. They have all the loads in front of them. They have all the stuff kind of automated in front of them. They're picking and choosing. We're warning why you didn't do this, why you did this. So it does. It expands that relationship quite well. And to your point, Sean, I think customers. There's two types of customers. There's a shipper and a carrier, right?
Greg, thanks for saying that. I think a lot of opposition that I hear, and it sounds like lip service when I say it, but they're afraid of using technology because they don't want to lose the personal touch with the carrier. And it does sound like a sales pitch. Where I'm like, it actually, using this tech enhances the conversations that you're having because it's more strategic. You're not just talking tactics, right? You're not just responding to an issue. You're really having a deep conversation. So thanks for saying that, because it does sound not real when I say it.
Well, it's important. I mean, that's how I know I made my bones by calling carriers pretty much every day, right? Same carriers over and over and over and over and over again, until finally they were like, okay, I've got a truck here on Tuesday. But I think now, and it's not going to happen overnight. You're still going to have to build that relationship. You still have to build that confidence, right? So as you concentrate your company and you reposition your reps to build relationships, and that's the conversations we're having with the teams. That's when it starts to switch, right? When that's when all of a sudden that 40-year-old, 50-year-old, secret carrier that loves to do business with you, hates technology, doesn't want anything to do with it. That's when their buy-in starts coming in, because they are getting, not just service, but very specific service to them that they're craving, right?
And last thing I'll say on this slide, and I'll let us move on here, but I always like to, when you talk to people about technology, to Elise's point, I work for Tai, right? So it's not always easy to necessarily take my word for it, but I do like to, when I talk to people about potentially making a switch, I like to ask them, what would it look like if you were saving your carrier reps 11 hours a week? What would you be able to do with that extra time, right? And our stats show that, Tai customers will increase their shipment volume by 20 to 30%, once they've onboarded with Tai, right? Because of the time savings. And then the further down the road they get and the more efficient they become with Tai, the higher that number gets. And when you add Parade onto that and you save even more time, you can think about the growth. And so if what would your business look like if you were saving 11 hours a week per rep? And if you don't necessarily believe me, give me the chance to show you why I think the system, especially the systems together, would save you that time, right? And then we can work away from there, because if I can show you where we can save you that 11 hours and you have Greg kind of backing up what I'm saying, then it becomes very realistic that you could see your revenue increase significantly with these efficiencies, right? And that'll way offset the technology costs, which, I think are a very good value when you package Tai and Parade together.
I agree, right? These are the things that, you wish you had when, you were in some DOS system way back in the day. These are the things that you were praying for would come down the pike one day. Well, here they are, right? And just using them and putting them in front of your people, I think it's a lot quicker uptake than most people realize.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Greg, can you tell us about some of the challenges that you faced before you added these tools to your tech stack?
Sure. Well, we were with a couple of previous TMSs. One we were in for a really long time, and then one for probably about 3 years. And what we ran into first was, oh my God, it takes us 20 clicks to book a load, right? Like it was like, I can't stand these windows. There's too many open. I don't know what's going on. And then once we solved that, we started to realize that there was going to end up being some limitations where we ended up the second iteration. And once we got with Tai and the truckload quoting screen and the ease of use and the partnership and all those things combined, that enables us to look up and out, because we have a very dialed in look of what our people are doing down and in, right? And we're able to rely on the tools to do the work, right? And kind of bring continuity to how everybody's interacting with it, with still some creativity, right? Like I 100%, everybody uses it a little bit differently, but as long as I can have a bigger scope of how it's being used generally, then I feel good about things. Because from the way you guys set up your your front page there, the truckload screen, right, where you can put it any way you want and sell. I always set it up to say, sell it or set it up the way you want to sell, right? So however that looks, and then just one click and you're into that truckload quoting screen, right? So, and that's that. And then when we start to talk about Parade, I think there's tremendous reporting that's available in Parade that you could sift through and do a lot, but I'm not an Excel expert, and I don't want to be. So we end up seeing is that a lot of stats specifically to carrier use is brought forward, and a little insight on what carrier reps are doing, right? What their actions are, what's working out for them, what's not. So when we started to discover, holy cow, 78%, or the stat I just checked was 72% of our loads in the last 90 days were booked by carriers we used 20 plus times in those 90 days. So
Wow.
yeah, and that just, now we're concentrating even more, right? Now we even bring that, okay, how do we even further that relationship more and more and more? So it really signals out. There's a missed opportunity page. So if your people are using Parade and they're not quite getting what it's doing or whatever, we can drill in and help them understand how this works better. So some of the challenges I think was just time. I think it was everybody kind of doing their own thing, and really those two things right there will stop your growth, right? And once we kind of brought Parade in, we when we do bring in technology, we look for like-minded people. We have they mentioned it before, but like these two guys are held downtown growth too, right? And those are the same values, and they're doing it the right way. They're doing it through partnership, relationship, transparency, all those things. And that's what we are, right? And that's what our goal is with our customers. So when we find that like-minded people, that we all work together really well and we can push forward.
Wow. Yeah, that is super important. And especially with adoption of technology, making sure that everybody's on board with it. That is a huge challenge.
Yeah,
A lot of companies
I'll add
face.
this in too, both with Parade and with Tai. You guys, both of you have a super hands-on approach to making sure we're using things correctly, to making sure that it's as intended, but again, leaving creativity. But just, hey, have you tried this? This isn't working. Try this. You know what I mean? And just being there with us and fleshing out these ideas, because no brokerage is the same, even though we're all doing the same thing. Everybody's running a different play, right?
Absolutely.
But you guys being there to back us up and being there like bi-weekly, we've got calls and we're talking through some points. So that's super important for me as well.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, Greg, can you tell us a little bit about why you chose Tai and Parade and the benefits that you see from the two systems?
Yeah, well, we chose Tai because of how robust it is, right? Like I know this isn't an LTL call, but we've grown our LTL like wildfire, right? And we were doing like 42 loads a year in LTL. So it's been a tremendous change. But it also, I run a team system. So I have a shipper rep, 2 carrier reps, and a load planner per team. And we're running about 4 teams right now. And then that enables them to really zone in on each piece of Tai to utilize, each screen to the best of its ability. I have the philosophy of a master of one rather than a jack of all trades, right? Or jack of whatever, none. So that was big for me because it actually helped me put my vision out there and into process. you know, with Parade, I've always seen it as a relationship builder. And I think I've even had internal conversations in here where it's like, we're getting, you know, I think you mentioned it before. We're getting rid of the personal touch. Now everything's going to be automated. They're going to start firing carrier reps. It's like, no, now I can have 20 carrier reps, right? And we're not bumping heads. We're not getting mad at each other about who booked what with who, right? Like it's bringing everybody together. And again, I built my relationships that we're still using today by picking up the phone and having a good conversation and having a conversation showing people I care. And that's where Parade for me comes in, is changing it from, you know, hey, you got a truck? Hey, you got a truck? Hey, you got a truck? To, hey, saw you quoted on this load. Are you in this area often? Are you here? You know, it's you know, like I think someone used the term warm lead. That's what they are, right? They're warm leads for carriers, and God knows, as a broker, we all need them.
Right.
But you know, those are the big keys.
And I've talked a lot, just kind of on that same note, I've talked a lot over the last few years about how, you know, the digital brokers really, you know, push to enter the space and sort of say like, hey, we can kind of cut out the middleman, and there doesn't have to be people, and we can connect shipper to carrier through just technology. And I think that's a huge mistake. And but the cool thing about Tai and with the partnership with Parade is like, we've basically taken a lot of tools that a digital broker could potentially use to automate, but we've made it so that it empowers the broker on relationships. Because, you know, it may sound like a good concept to have the shipper go like through a piece of technology and, you know, run that kind of model where you can get a truck. But the second, I mean, freight has so many unavoidable situations that just arise and just happen. And when you don't have somebody that you can pick up the phone and call, like somebody over at Concept, it can get really stressful, right? And the benefit that the broker adds is that touch of like, hey, I got this. You don't have to worry about it. I understand, like maybe, you know, a truck had an accident or something went wrong with the shipment, but we are on top of it. And you can pick up the phone and you can build that trusted partnership. And those are the things, like what we're trying to do with digital tools is eliminate all of the stuff that really you don't necessarily need to touch. Like we don't want anybody having to spend too much time entering a bunch of shipments or posting and reposting to the load boards and all that sort of tedious stuff. We want that extra time freed up to take those phone calls and make sure everybody feels like that Concept is being a good partner to their company. In order to do that, we have to be a good partner to Concept, and we have to understand their business model and where they're trying to grow, and we have to align with that.
Absolutely. Relationships are the most important thing in this industry. So Greg, can you tell us a little bit about this statistic and why it's so impressive to call out?
Yeah, I mean, for me, right, if I could, you know, what are we trying to do for our shipper customers, right? What are we trying to do for them? We're trying to bring them continuous capacity of trucks they can trust for a good price, right? I'm not one that subscribes to like, let's get the lowest rate and get the load. You know, so I just think that we sacrifice too much when we do that. And this enables us, this stat here enables us to take a look at the carriers that are continuously working with us and are trying to, whether they know it or not, whether my reps know it or not, but they are forming a relationship. We are working together more and more and more. And when you start to take that conversation out of, hey, I got a load in Buffalo to go to Jersey today, right? And you start to talk about how many trucks you run up here a week? What are your commitments to your drivers, right? How often do you like to get them home? What's deadhead max for you? What do you like to do for in this scenario? And you start to listen to them and how they actually run their business. I think you start to find that that this number just continues to grow. Like I said, this slide was made a couple weeks, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and it's already up 13%. So, wow. I mean, it's an incredible insight to working with carriers you can trust, because I mean, I don't, you know, speaking personally, I've been in some situations where I was like, oh, you know, I put a carrier on this and I'm in a bad way now. And I'd rather not use them. But you know what? I didn't call my core carrier, a day earlier, or I put the load in and let it sit there because my one carrier always takes it, and today they couldn't, right? Because they didn't even know I had it because I was busy doing other things. Now we're talking about the automation piece, and now we're talking about the load goes in, it shoots it over to the carrier of your choice for the price they want it, right? And now they're able to interact with that and say, hey, I can do this Tuesday. You got it in here Monday, got it Tuesday. You flip it over to Tuesday and they book it, right? But depending on what your customer can handle. But I think that's where the key for me is that I want a core. I mean, if I could do all the loads we do on 100 trucking companies, that'd be great, right? That's not reality, but it'd be great. So the more I can capitalize on that, the better for me.
Wow, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the awesome growth that you had and that you guys have seen in the last year, especially with using these tools?
Yeah. I think just to start off, right, like you've got to commit to it, right? And you've got to commit to the growth, and that's destination. That's where you're going. And I think when you commit to that, you start searching for the tools, right? And for me, I'm a big fan of being creative and things running around and doing some wild stuff, see what sticks. And when you do that, and you bring in partners that allow you to do that, there's no way I'm writing an algorithm anytime soon, right? I'm not going to code anything, right? So, but I can book some trucks, and the things that enabled me to do that better, that's what I look for, right? Is how can I bring in tools that I wish I had, or like if I can see all the quotes on one page and anybody in the organization can go grab that. What does that look like? Well, it looks like Ty's Truckload quoting stream, right? If I could if I could put a load in and it bust out to the networks and hit smart rules and bring quotes back into that page, what would that look like? Well, that looks like Parade. Right. So it's just giving me the advantage of doing more with less actions and concentrated in elevating what my reps do. So they're believing in, right? Like, but you're going to have a better day if you talk to a relationship rather than if you talk to 100 strangers.
100%. Absolutely. Any relationships like this, and especially coming up with deals and negotiations and contracts, working with people that you trust is super important in this, especially when there's a lot of steps in the process and it's a long workflow. So
yeah. I mean, for the other part of it is just I feel like we've built a culture that all has decided to hop on the growth train, right? And we've been able to bring on, and so this is a great point to bring up now. In the last year, well, I would say that the end of 2021, we were 19 people. I'm 36 now.
Wow.
Right. And that might be off. That might be my months. Who knows, right? But it's grown exponentially, right? And we're attracting people who love the growth, love the action, love the dedication, right? And when you partner with people in your tech stack or your tools that you bring in, and those are the same mindsets, then it makes it a lot easier. And I think that's what we've got. We've got some good juju going.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
Greg, the word automation can be really scary and triggering for reps and brokers. Naturally, you think, hey, I'm going to be out of a job. And that stat you mentioned is incredible. You actually used the word exponential correctly, which people don't normally do. How did you get your reps to understand that the technology that you guys have isn't to replace their jobs? It's really a tool. I think that's a challenge that every brokerage has to overcome.
Yeah, that's a good question. I beat them all up. No.
Yeah.
No, seriously, we had a conversation, right? We got down and we got eye level and we said, look, guys, I think this is the future. Who doesn't, right? Would you not like a tool that does this? Do you understand what it's doing? And do you understand what I'm asking of you, to get out of the boiler room and to be, the good people I know you can be, and to form the relationships I know you can do, and to capitalize on those and grow this business with us. And once we had that conversation, the naysayers, there's always going to be people who have different levels of technology, ability. But even those, right, when they see that first load book with that carrier they set the smart wheel up with, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, and then they do it again, and they call them up, everything okay? Everything's great. I'm loving the platform. I booked 7 loads with you guys. Call me next week, like now they're like, holy cow, this is great, right? Or the pulling in, talking about the network, someone we don't use, right, quotes on a load, and we call them and we form a new relationship, right? So yeah, I think it was, at first it was a bit, right, it was like, whoa, but now when they're like, hey, I have 10, they have a little competition going on sometimes. We're like, hey, I had 7 loads booked last week, nobody touched, right? I mean, that's pretty awesome.
And we deal with, in the industry, there's a lot of times where there might be a seasoned broker who, it probably would slow them down to have to learn something new, because they just got it so dialed in. They've been doing it for so many years that this is how they do it. But when you look at their process, there's so many facets to it that my question always is, how are you going to train a new person on how to do everything that you already know how to do, right? Like, how do we get that out of your head? And we have to boil down every action that you do into a very, very simple process so you can put a new person in that seat and go, here's what I would do, right? And you set it up in a way that steers them into doing what the seasoned broker would already do.
Even to add on that, Sean, like the technology that it's using, like it's not anything that different from the TMSs that are all out there that everybody's been using for years now. So it's when, I don't mean to scare anybody away, but like it's minimal training for people to understand what's going on, right? Some people dive into Parade and really, really get in there. Some people dive into Tai and figure out what they're going on. Some people just work on the surface and it works for them. But those 2 levels are there, and they can kind of weave in and out as they want. But yeah, I mean, we have a rep here that's 30 years booking freight, right? That's all he does, carrier rep, books freight. And he uses Parade probably one of the best out of everyone.
Wow. That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Okay. So we're saving a little bit of time at the end for Q&A. We've had quite a few questions come in. Let's start out. Greg, this question will be for you. I think you could best answer. What did the process of vendor selection look like for you? And what are some steps or questions you recommend for other brokerages to decide on tech partners?
It's never ending. Right? It's never ending. I'm constantly on the lookout for what can come in. But again, I think the first thing you have to look at is it automating or is it elevating? And what value is it bringing in? I think the 2 partners on the call now add tremendous value. One of my first questions is what's their goals? What's their values? Who are they? Right? Same thing you would want to know of a friend. And believe me, when you bring in tech vendor in, you're going to need to be friends. So,
Right.
I think bringing in the ORI, everybody's going to have those stats. Everybody's going to have some value prop and add, and it comes down to what your goals are and how they align with them, what kind of relationship will be formed, how often you guys are going to have that conversation. Is it just like, hey, sign up and then, I'll bill you monthly? Or is it going to be like, like both Tai and Parade have listened to us, probably endlessly at times. I've got a couple of people on my staff that really love to talk. So to sit there and listen and really kind of like take what we say to heart and bring us back solutions and be a partner to us, that's the biggest thing. And you just have to realize what your goals are and how they can help you achieve them.
Absolutely. So important. Elise, how is Parade supporting the rollout of the capacity management tool with new brokers?
So we're really heavily invested in our customer success and built a team just wholly focused around this. So we have an onboarding team led by Ann Holtzman. She's been integrating TMS solutions for 15 years. So her and her team just make sure all the right data is flowing in, project management, making sure we're going live on time. And then once Parade is live, every customer gets a customer success manager. So who works with concepts, Ezra, who leads the team, Andy Hudson. He's been in brokerage. I mean, he was at C.H. Robinson for 16 years, then spent 3 years working in tech, helping 3PLs and companies adopt tech. So we do create and customize playbooks. We do trainings, but to Greg's point, we're really there for every brokerage the way they need us to be. Not every brokerage is the same. Not every brokerage wants to be supported in the same way, and we're really flexible to that. So, that's what we do. We also have a support team as well as a partnerships team to handle kind of any issues that come in day to day. But we're there. We're there more than just once every 2 weeks. I mean, we're there. Portal, we're there anytime you need a call. Heavily invested in that.
That's great. And having constant support, is super important, especially when you're adopting new technologies, because the level of frustration can stop a lot of processes. Let's see, Greg, can you tell us about the implementation process of these tools?
Yeah, no, again, it goes back to them being there, but we selected them. I remember with Tai, we were gonna run them concurrently together, and our old TMS and this one, and everybody's starting to freak out. And Tai, they adopted Tai within a week, right? So we were, they were with us the whole time, uploading our stuff, bringing us on board, and it was, we came on in March of 20, the pandemic. So I mean, it was like there was enough to freak out about.
Yeah.
And Tai was there with us, standing side by side the whole time. So as far as it went, it was as great as it could be. With Parade, and the same thing, right? I mean, what at least I think what you just said was super important. Like you just created another team, right? Like to do this specific thing, and it's like that's the type of relationship that they brought to the table as well, is that they are constantly upgrading how they interact with the customers and getting them up to where they promised they'd bring you. So we've had tremendous success with that, right? I mean, the whole goal of this thing for me, my selling point when they said the secret word for me, or 2 words, was capacity management, right? And that's the huge piece for me. If we can bring a little bit of order to the chaos that is our trucking company, and partnerships with our carriers, that was huge, and they're accomplishing that and helping us push the boundaries even more, both of them.
Yeah, that's great. And being able to grow, especially with how the economy is going, and the unknowing of everything, it's great to have to be expanding, especially, and growing, especially as much as your company has. Let's see, this one is for Sean. What does Tai TMS do to ensure a smooth transition, and what advice would you give to a broker looking for a new TMS?
Well, in order to ensure a smooth transition, we've put, and I think this is why we align so well with Parade as partners, because we put the same kind of emphasis on making sure that the customer has a good experience coming in the door, and then continuing to have a good experience. It's not just about getting you to make the decision. It's about making that decision feel comfortable day one, right? And so we have our ops director, Lena Castaneda. She's done a great job creating a great onboarding process, and she also oversees our support team. And so we have a full support team, onboarding team dedicated to pulling the data from your old system or getting all the data from your old system into Tai, and then training you step by step on our system and what our processes look like, and sort of helping you win adoption from your current team and trying to make that easier on you. That's always like everybody's sort of biggest fear, is that we're going to make this decision and there's so many unknowns and we're afraid, right? And so we've really invested a lot of time and energy and people into making sure that we make that comfortable. And and then in order to make sure that we're maintaining positive relationships, we created a client success team that will come in and, because as we grow, we still want it to feel like a partnership. We want our customers to have more of a personal touch. And so as we've grown, we've had to add more people to basically just sort of be an expert in making sure that the brokers that work with us are succeeding and using the system to its max efficiency. And we roll out updates every 6 weeks, and we want to make sure that those are well known to everybody. And we make sure that, like, if there's something that's going to help you, especially if it's something that a lot of users ask for, we want to make sure that they know that, hey, we added that and check it out. And we think this is going to save you even more time, or we think this is going to help you book more loads and things like that. So average implementation for us is about 30 days. And the cool thing about our integrations is, especially because from a tech standpoint, Tai and Parade match up so well, because once we get you onboarded in Tai, it's like a flip of a switch with Parade. If you've got your agreement in place with them, it's super. I mean, you have to set up your smart rules and things like that in Parade, but once everything's set up to make that connection, it's like day of, which is awesome.
That really speeds up and saves a lot of time in the end. Okay, so we're getting to the end. We'll do one more question. And this, Greg, was for you. Since you went through the automation and now carriers are booking without intervention of carrier reps, how do you manage accountability and credit for the booked load?
Parade does a great job of that, and the two systems talk, right? And they talk the same language, right? we're lucky enough to have that happen. So you can point that to however you want. You can have that point to whoever builds the smart rule, whoever entered the load, whoever is the salesman on the load. It can be cut 100 different ways. Both Parade and Tai make sure that we can really utilize it the best way. I mean, that's obviously our reps, right? Very concerned with how many loads they're covering. And that's a big piece of, how we incentivize people. So it really can be done just about any way you look at it, but it can be, right now I think we have it, and there's different hierarchies, if I'm not mistaken. So you could have it be, it could be the carrier rep, and if that, that's not there, or the salesman's not there, it goes to another person. So they make it really easy to get the accountability, and it goes onto that board. Again, I use that team system for how Tai works, and when it's attached to let's just say I have a blue team, and say the blue team's in there, and it books one of their carrier reps sets up a rule and it does that. The carrier rep gets the credit, and the team gets the load on their board, right? So it works out really well, because the load planner will swoop into place, start talking to the driver, getting tracking going, making sure everything's going well. So really easily, I guess, would be the the answer.
Visibility, and that is very, very important.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are getting to the top of the hour. Just a few things. Any of the follow-up questions we will be sending out. And if anyone has any more questions that come up, or they would like to ask Greg, Elise, or Sean, please use the emails that are on the screen right now. We will be following up in an email if anyone is also interested in reading the case study about this. We have a PDF that we can distribute if you're interested in also reading it. But I'd like to thank our panelists for joining us today and letting us ask questions and talk about this. It's very insightful when you get to see an actual real life example of people using the tool and being successful doing it. So you know, for brokers that are just getting started or also use the tool, it's sometimes, you know, is a good reminder of what it can do and how growth can really happen when you're doing it right. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we will follow up shortly in an email.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Go Bills.